What's going on, ladies and gentlemen? So today, this is a familiar friend to the show. You know who she is Akile. Now, you seen her in the last interview. You also seen her before, and maybe some of you are new. She had challenged a reporter and put him in his place, which was great. And she stuck to focusing on the community, which we like, because usually when we see people in politics, they want to pander to everyone else. And they feel that black is a curse word. And this sister do not feel that way. Now, she won her primary, and I'll let her talk to you guys about that. But Akile, thank you for coming on the show today.
Thank you, Phil, for having me.
All right, give people the 411. What happened with the election? We want to know where everything's at.
So on August 27th, that was the primary election date, and we made it out of the primary. So now we're in a runoff with the incumbent of District 7. We were facing 3 different opponents in that race, so we beat 2 of them, and now we're in the runoff in the general. And the general election is a citywide race, so whereas District 7 got to vote on, who was going to be running against each other in the general election, now the entire city gets to vote, and the entire city is majority white. So, now it's bringing this platform of reparations to the black community to a citywide election and, generating a lot of support for it. So we got our work cut out for us, but we're really excited. And the general is November 5th, so got a couple months to make this happen.
All right, so what was the overall reaction when you won your primary from, maybe people that's in the city?
So, it was just really exciting because, so often we're told that, and not just in St. Pete, but everywhere where we're trying to do something for our people in our community and trying to stand on the right side of history, we're told that, well, the world isn't ready for that. People don't want to hear that kind of stuff. In particular here, if you run on a platform of reparations, you'll never win. And it's that kind of cynicism of the past that beholdens us to never, fight for change. And when people saw us win, it gave them confidence that, oh, wow, we can do this thing. So whereas people might have been skeptical, on the fence, and they might have not even been able to vocalize their support because they just did not know whether this was possible. Once they saw us win the primary, they could come out of the reparations closet, if you will, and and be able to vocalize and be able to stand with it, because it's like, okay, we do have the ability to win this. Like, big money, despite everything that it threw at us, despite the media whiteout that we experienced, despite, the thousands of dollars that they pump into the incumbent's pocket, that we were able to win the primary election, and now we're in this general. So, people were just really excited, and I know that people who are watching this election right now are, just really energized because, they want to see this happen because of what it will mean, for the country and the rest of the world. So people are really excited about it.
So you were mentioning the status quo in the incumbent itself. What are you trying to change within that status quo? And could you pinpoint what the status quo is for black people or just anyone else that maybe you would be over if you win?
So when we look at the status quo, and we're talking about a system that's built on the oppression and exploitation of black people. And, what we look at when we look at the incumbent, she is upholding the status quo. She gets money from, the big developers that are responsible for the problems that we as a people face on a daily basis. And, not just looking to change things within the status quo, but to change the system, period, to, create a different situation where, where our government is not moving from a place of, how can we profit, but it's actually prioritizing the people and making sure that the quality of life for the people is at the center of everything it is that we do. And in particular, the black community, which never ever gets addressed, our needs and aspirations are never even discussed. And, that we want to bring this beyond discussion, because there's been many conversations about it. And I don't know how many conversations we can have before we go, okay, this cannot go on anymore, because the city government will pull together community conversations and nothing will change. And we're saying that this immediate thing needs to happen right now. We want reparations. We want the return of the land that's been stolen from our community back into the hands of the Black community so that we can begin to produce for ourselves. We can feed, clothe, and house ourselves. We can create a vibrant economy in our community, which will contribute to the entire city. And, that's what we're trying to bring, because, Black people suffer the most humiliating, degrading just conditions. And we see our people, just imagine being in your community and your children seeing nothing but poverty and despair, and they don't have anything to look forward to, because this is what they see. So, we're trying to change our entire future by getting a hold of it right now, and doing and putting forth the only solution that's actually going to change anything, because they offer these piecemeal things that said that it's going to take 10 years before we actually see any progress. And we're saying that reparations means progress can happen tomorrow, that this is the only way to heal a divide. This is the only way to really pay back and bridge socioeconomic gaps. This is the only way to do it. And we're tired of, 10 years from now, we can see progress. People are ready for it right now. So that's what we're trying to bring. And that requires a total change in how the system functions.
Now, and correct me if I'm wrong, the incumbent is a Black woman, correct?
Yeah, she is.
Okay. So would it be safe to say that this particular Black woman has been going along to get along? Yeah,
most definitely. That is safe to say, that she was plucked out of the working class Black community, with a story that is not necessarily unique to Black people. Over about a decade ago, her son was killed in an act of horizontal violence, what we call Black on Black crime. When we look at that situation, we know that those contradictions are created by a system where they have pitted Black people against each other, competing for a limited amount of resources. So that type of violence, that's the only thing that can, fester in that type of situation. And so instead of fighting against a system that imposed horizontal violence on our community, instead she sided with the system. And, she really prides herself in breaking down the no snitch code in our communities and working with the police. And, that's what she prides herself in. And now she's taking these money from these big developers that are gentrifying Black people out of our communities. So she weaponized a story that is a common occurrence in our community versus fighting for the real solution, which is for Black people to have economic development, for us to see a future so that we don't have to compete amongst ourselves for a limited amount of resources, that we could, be uniting and engaging in building our economy. And, the real campaign that is genuinely sympathetic and wanting to fight for her son and all children that we lose at the hands of horizontal violence, all grieving Black mothers and fathers, that this is a campaign, this is what you should side with. You should side with reparations, economic development, an end to gentrification and police containment. That is how you avenge, your son. But so they took this woman and this story and they propped her up as a, the people's candidate. And, that's how she won the first time. And, she's just been nothing but a yes man on city council for whatever the government is doing. She just recently voted with the rest of council to hike up the utility bills of everybody in the city, based on a crime that the government committed, just in about 4 or 5 years ago, when they dumped, 1 billion gallons of sewage in the water. So, she's going along, and we're saying that we're exposing it,
So you mean to tell me, and it sounds like she's a token, Black person, not to say another word, but she went along with them dumping sewage in the water, and the water that they dumped the sewage in, where was it routed to?
So 1 billion gallons of sewage was dumped into the Tampa Bay and throughout the city over the course of about 2-3 years. And it started when the mayor, Rick Kreisman, who, the incidents preceded him, but the fact of the matter is he came in and exacerbated it, not took responsibility for it and tried to fix it. He closed down a very critical waste plant in the city, despite the fact that the workers within the Water Resources Department said, don't do that, because it'll only lead to a huge disaster. But he closed it down because there were development prospects, people with money signs in their eyes, wanting to develop on that land. So he closed it down, and Then really bad storms happened, and of course sewage spilled all over the city. And the first place they dumped it was a black neighborhood called Clam Bayou, and they routed it all there first. And then once it just couldn't hold anymore, then they started routing it to the Tampa Bay at large, and now they're dumping it underground into the aquifer. And but the original place they did it was in the black community, and then they started routing it to other places once that just wasn't going to hold up. And you end up supporting 1 billion gallons of sewage in people's waters when you take money from big developers that are straining the infrastructure of today. You end up supporting sewage in your water when you support what this government and this administration is doing to the people of the city. You end up supporting whether you verbally say it or not. Your policy, your action says whether or not you support it. And and the government has been working really hard to put the onus on the people, homeowners, residents, saying that it's a tax that we have to pay. It's our burden, our citizens' burden or whatever that we have to pay for to contribute to our infrastructure. When it's the same type of call is not made to the big developers who are coming in building luxury apartments every single day. That's the real those are the real people straining this infrastructure today. There were over 80 felonies and over 100 misdemeanors committed in the sewage dump, and they didn't arrest the mayor because they said the blame was so widespread they didn't know who to put in jail. I have never even heard of something like that. So,
well, when it's them folks, I don't know who to put in jail. I'm just so confused, but let it be me and you. Oh, they know exactly who to put in jail.
Right.
Boy, these people like they don't. Oh, it just amazes me how they all play the same game. Nothing changes with them people. So let's get back to this black woman you're talking about here. So this black woman knew that they put sewage in the water going to black people first, and it didn't become a problem until they started putting it in white folks' water. Correct?
Right. I mean, there was a huge outcry.
See, let me tell you something, Akile. I'm so sick and tired of the black politician. And let me ask you a question. Is she a Democrat?
She is.
Oh, Lord. I'm about to rant a little bit. You see how these black folks, run with the Democrat Party, is cool with poisoning black people with sewage. Do you know what kind of diseases that's in sewage? It's disease. And she was cool with that as long as it going to black people. It didn't become a problem until white folks start getting poisoned. And then they don't know who to put in jail.
Right.
Oh,
right.
Now you see why Akile needs to get in office. So Akile, what are you going to do about that? I got to ask you that. What are you going to do about the sewage problem?
So one of the things that we're doing, that I'm fighting for, is to tax the developers, not the people. I don't think the people should have to pay the price for what the government did. Right. And despite how they try to twist it and again make it our citizens' burden, this is a tax that we're paying for our infrastructure. That is on the big developers, and we say that we need a permanent end to the development of luxury apartments. One, we don't need anymore, and two, that's only going to make things worse. And we also, I'm calling for a criminal investigation of the Kreisman and his administration. Simple as that. There's not a reasonable excuse to not put somebody, hold these people accountable. That man should be behind bars. He committed an atrocious crime, and he got away with it because several other people were also involved in the crime. And I know about guilty by association, and I say lock them all up. If you know at least 5 of them who's in it, lock them all up. But we want to reopen a criminal investigation. We also want to, the sewage plant that they closed down, we want to, invest in modernizing that sewage plant, because also the sewage infrastructure is antiquated. It hasn't been worked on since the 70s. So, all this equipment, everything should be updated, modernized. And we also want to fight for workers' power, because one thing that's really critical to note is that, workers carry out the day-to-day work of the city. It's the thing that keeps it functioning. City workers do that. And in 2014, city workers said, do not close that plant down. We know this plant more than anybody else does. We know how this stuff works more than the guy sitting in City Hall does. Don't close it down. It'll lead to disasters. And if workers had power, that plant wouldn't have been closed down. If workers had power, they would have been able to come together and be able to make the decisions about how the city should function. They do the hard, grueling work on a day-to-day basis anyway. And There was a lot of intimidation and harassment of city workers when this whole thing was going down. Like you couldn't criticize the mayor without fear of being fired. That's the kind of intimidation the workers were under when this whole thing went underway. They fired he used to be the head of the Water Resources Department. He was the only black high-ranking official within the Water Resources Department. They used him as a scapegoat. They fired him and then hired a white guy to replace him. And, if we had workers' power, we wouldn't have to deal with that kind of stuff. So those are all the different things that, we're proposing in regards to the sewage thing and, investing the resources necessary to update the infrastructure to make sure that we have the capacity to handle all that comes our way.
So basically, you guys are having your own version of Flint, maybe not the brown water aspect,
right,
but you still having water contamination issues.
Right, and there's, there was situation with the beaches, like people can't swim. There's, and they try to say that there's no connection between the red tide and the disease and the bacteria in the water. Like they try to say that there's no relation, but I mean, obviously there is a relationship to it. And, they're dumping into the aquifer. They say it's partially treated. So, don't worry about it too much. And that's obviously ridiculous. They try to create all these different explanations so that you don't have to feel as concerned as you should feel. When you drive around, you can literally smell it. It smells disgusting. Don't drive around any body of water over here because it's disgusting. There's a situation where, pelicans were being found dead on the beaches, because of the contamination. And even workers complained because they were sent out there in conditions where they didn't even have the proper equipment. Had no hazmat suits, no nothing, and forced to go out there and work in those kinds of conditions. So it's extremely hazardous. It's a giant health risk. And, we say that St. Pete is Flint. It's Newark, New Jersey. It's all these places where black people are catching hell just with our water alone. It's the same thing.
That is extremely sad. So, definitely, the people should vote for you if they don't want to support the reparations aspect. I know how some folks are. I don't want to support that. Well, support her on the fact that she's trying to fight to clean your water up. Because the water situation affects everybody, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what else is on the table as well outside of basically poisoning or contaminating the water that people got to drink? And a black woman went along with it. We want to make sure that's a Democrat. We'll make sure we put it out there. What else are they doing that you say, I got to get in there outside of the gentrification and this? What else are they doing that the people need to know about that could be watching?
Well, they're, like I said, so they just raised up people's utility bills. And, one thing that I think is really, because there are two really big issues right now. And one is in regards to affordable housing, and that directly connects to gentrification. But, it's an outcry from, around the city where people are finding it more, they're not able to afford to live here. And the Kreisman administration, they put forth this plan where, $60 million over a period of 10 years would be spent to develop 2,400 units of affordable housing. And first of all, there are 250,000 people that live in the city, so that's not even 1% of that population that you're talking about building affordable housing. Mm-hmm. Number one. And number two, over a period of 10 years, when the mayor won't be here, he'll be termed out in about 2. And, majority of those city council people right now, they won't even be here in 10 years to have to deal with the lies that come with this phony plan. And then $60 million over a period of 10 years, allocated to the creation of affordable housing, is a slap in the face when the city dropped $84 million on a new police station. Just boop, found the money to make it happen, and continuously find money for the projects that it is that they want, including continuously finding more money for police. They have no problem finding that money. But when it comes to creating affordable housing, and it's a two-pronged thing, because one, the $60 million over a 10-year period is a slap in the face. But two, when you build another luxury condo or apartment and you price a studio at $1,800, you're going to raise up the price of rent for everybody else around the surrounding area and the places that they rent. So when you develop more luxury apartments, you're only, putting strain on the housing market altogether. Like you're making it unaffordable to do that. So, so saying that we want to do affordable housing, but we also are going to continue to build luxury apartments, it's a contradiction. You can't do both. And, we're saying that we want to set, the people's rent to 25% of the AMI, the area median income. Right now, Black people in the Tampa Bay area spend 54% of their income towards rent alone. That's more than half their income to being able to have some place to stay. And, we want to set it to 25% of your area median income, so no one is ever paying more than half of their income for a place to stay. Again, we want a permanent end to the development of luxury apartments. If a developer wants to come in here and build, he can't price it. He can't start their prices at $1,800 for a studio apartment. That's incredible. And, we're saying no $60 million over a period of 10 years. We're saying we need this stuff to happen right now. Right now. People are sleeping on park benches right now as we're having this discussion. So 10 years is too long of a wait. So, that's a really huge outcry. And this platform that we have is the only one that's fighting against the big development that's making it impossible for people to afford to live here. And another big discussion is around this Tropicana Field baseball stadium, which, I may not be necessarily relevant to people outside of St. Pete, but for baseball fans or whatever, it's a baseball team that's been here for maybe 2 decades, and there is a land called the Gas Plant District where it was a Black community where we had 100 Black businesses and over 800 people that lived in this area, and that whole community was leveled to build the dome. And, we talk about Black communities and Black economies destroyed, like in Tulsa, Oklahoma, where a bomb was dropped in Tulsa. Well, the bomb that was dropped in St. Pete was the Tropicana Field baseball stadium, and it was dropped right on the gas plant and destroyed that community. And now the baseball team, they want to leave. And, that means that if they want to leave right now, they'll be breaking their lease a couple of years early. And, I don't really care about all of that. My intention is for 85 acres of that land, it sits on 85 acres of land, to be returned back to the Black community. And that everybody's talking about that, and the government is salivating over the development opportunities, and we're saying, hands off, that belongs to the Black community. That is our land. You destroyed our community to build this baseball stadium. You lied and promised light industry jobs and all this stuff. Nothing was ever produced. And that land, no discussion about that land can happen where the Black community is not the determining factor of what happens. So that's part of the big discussion that's happening right now. Everybody wants to see what's going to happen with that land. And, that's what I want to see. And that's what the Black community who was impacted by the destruction of the gas plant wants to see. So those are some other major things that's happening right now.
Well, the woman that's in there now, the Black woman, how long has she been in office?
So she's been in for office for about 4 years. So would be her second term. She's fighting for a second term.
Okay. So she was there for a decision about the sewage going to the Black community. What a decision underneath her watch that was made in those development projects that you're talking about, that was underneath her watch as well?
Yeah, a lot of these new developments that are happening right now have happened within the last couple of years. In fact, she actually voted to demolish an affordable housing unit to build some luxury apartments. So, she voted to do that. And there's a couple of luxury apartments being built here on the south side, but one that falls within our district, is under her watch right now as well. And also this another historic Black community called Jordan Park, residents were evicted under her watch, and she pinned it all on this thing called the Housing Authority and said, and wagged her finger at the Housing Authority and said, how dare you? And, you didn't look out for the seniors at Jordan Park, but, there was no outcry. She didn't come to our community knocking on doors and telling us to come to the meetings and, let's fight against this. She didn't do any kind of advocating like that. And she says, I fought for Jordan Park. And there was no fight. Jordan Park was taken. She pretended to care so that nobody would criticize her. And all of these elderly black residents in Jordan Park were pushed out. People don't even know where they are anymore. And now it's a block of it is fenced off, and it's going to be made way for a senior living facility, but it's not going to be for black seniors, because if it was, black people wouldn't have been pushed out. So it'll be for the white seniors that come here and decide that they're going to retire. And that happened all under her watch.
So basically, she needs to be out of there, because the problem we keep having as a people is that we keep putting people in like that, and then they screw us over. So, to the people that are voting or could be registered voters, you need to make change. That's why this country is the way it is. Same thing in Congress, the Senate, etc. They keep putting the same people in, or the same type of people in, and then you wonder why, things just falling apart, everybody at each other's throats. And I don't know if you guys had a register to vote drive already?
Well, it's a continuous thing. We're always trying to register people to vote. So.
Okay. So, Akile, tell people how they can get to your website, and we want people to donate. Please go donate, because it takes money to run the campaign. It's not free. It should be free to run, but it's not free. So, Akile, could you tell people about also your new campaign office, and how they can help and donate to get that lady out of there that agreed to putting sewage in the black community?
And I want to give people a frame of reference, just to say how expensive these things get. In the last election, this woman raised about $70,000 in in her first bid for running for office, and of course all of that came from big money, the status quo, people really pushing, gunning for her to win, and that's how expensive it is to run a campaign. And we're someone whose donor base averages at $27 per person, and I'm really proud of that. We have over 1,000 donors who, when you average it out, they're working people donating, between whatever they have, and that's something that we're really proud of. And it's an amazing campaign office right in the heart of the working class black community, where people are just so thrilled and excited. They see the Make the Southside Black Again sign, they know, and then it's fine, they have access to the person that says they want to represent them. I mean, we're the only campaign that has a campaign office, which we wanted it for accessibility and accountability, people to come knock on our door, tell us what the issue is, so that we can bring their voices, where it is that we're trying to go, not trying to remove ourselves from the community, but bring the community in. So it's really exciting, and we just need everyone to support, as whatever that you can give, to make this happen, to get the word out about this campaign. You can go to Vote Akile, that's VOTEAKILE.com. You can learn more about this 10-point platform that I've got going on. If you want to volunteer, if you're in St. Peter, even out of town, you want to figure out what kind of work you can do for the campaign, you can sign up there. We'll get right in contact with you. Or if you don't want to volunteer, or you do, and you still want to make a contribution, we're really encouraging you to do that. $1,000 is the max that people can give. If you can do the whole 1,000, right on. We've had people who can, so if you can make that happen, please don't let me stop you. You go at voteakile.com and make your contribution. Do what you can to make this campaign succeed, because I know that this is bigger than St. Petersburg. What we do here has an impact for the things that are happening throughout the world that we see, that we want changed. So.
Yeah, and let me tell you guys, and Akile could back me up what I'm about to say. The last time, you guys really came through, and maybe she could talk about that, and having funds. Tell people what happened last time, where a lot of people had came in mass, because they need to hear it from you and not from me, because I don't want to explain it. Let people know about that.
So thanks to you all in the primary election, we had so much flooding support coming in that the city's own website, that because we have to report our contributions, what we've raised, and the city's server that we have to report to was not prepared to handle such overwhelming support, that the system crashed twice. We crashed, the system twice with the overwhelming amount of support, because they don't anticipate that, you know, a movement of people will be so excited and fighting to make this thing happen. They expect for a small group of people to do what they've always done in their own little bubble and get elected. They were not anticipating that something like this could happen. So we crashed their server twice. You know, we made headlines all over the news, you know, because we were supposed to not be able to win. We were not supposed to be able to be successful. And because of you, we were able to make that happen. And I say, let's give them another upset. Let's crash the system again. Let's give them another big upset shocker and let them know that, you know, this is not going to go the way they think it's going to go. They think this woman's just going to walk in and take that seat, and we want to give them a huge upset. So that's what happened last time, and it was incredible.
Yeah, and I wanted you guys to hear from her based off of, you know, your mobilization, and maybe you can't, you know, you may hear about the sewage and everything and you're pissed off, say, here they go again doing that to us. But you maybe cannot vote in the election, but the money is the best vote you can give, because if this woman had raised 70,000, and you know she's one of those sellouts, obviously you know that, then she should have way more than 70,000 to run against her, so she can get out there and canvas and do the things that she need to do with her marketing, Facebook, or any things that she may need to do. I mean, we can come through. Now, I know you told me before that only people from the U.S., people from overseas was trying to send it, but it didn't allow?
Yeah, we checked the books, and it was said that no foreign contributions were allowed. So unfortunately, and we had a good amount of people from different places, people from Thailand, you know, in the UK, France, all over. People were wanting to donate, and we really appreciate all of those people. Unfortunately, we were not able to accept those contributions. So. But we do appreciate your support, and sharing things wide on social media to get the word out is still very acceptable. Very nice form of, you know, contributing to this campaign.
Okay. Well, you know, now if that person, for instance, was to donate, you know, something to a person here in the States, and that person decided to donate something to you, and it came from the States and not there, was that one way a person may do it? Let's say they know somebody here in the U.S. I'm just saying, if they know somebody, a family member, or whatever, and they tell that family member, hey, could you do this favor for me because I can't send it directly from here? Would that break the rules?
Nope. That is a U.S. contribution.
Okay. Well, people, those of you who are overseas and say, you know what, I wanted to send something, you can also do it that way. If you know someone here and say, hey, could you send this to voteakile.com for me? Then you can do that. You can participate. So we want everybody to participate with this, because, you know, you got brothers and sisters all over the world. Now, Thailand, that's interesting. I didn't know you had supporters in Thailand.
Yep, I was surprised too.
Yeah, yeah. What other countries that they were trying to you know, send something from?
Gosh, there was, I think, the Bahamas, Haiti, the various places in Europe. I think Guam. I know Guam was one, and that's a U.S. territory, but it was still not acceptable. Canada and various places in Africa. I'm trying to think. Occupied Azania was one, or South Africa. Some people know. Yeah, I can't even name them all at the top of my head.
So basically, you had worldwide support then.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yes.
Oh wow. Okay. Well, it actually tells you more about your reach. That your reach is global. It's just not, you know, located to St. Petersburg, Florida. So to me, it says you got a big future ahead of you if that many people resonate. Because, you know, it's not easy for people to take to you like that. It's really not. So for me, I just see a great future for you, you know, if you want to take it to that level. Because, you know, for people to want to just, you know, to give out of their money to you just off of what they saw, I mean, it's definitely something special. So everyone, go to voteakile.com, donate once again. Any amount will help. You know, if you can do 1,000, let's say if you want to give 10, can they do $1,000 donation 10 times if they choose to?
No, unfortunately, it's $1,000 per person per election. So once that person taps out, that's it. But they can get somebody else to do 1,000 if they want to.
Okay, so the most you can do is 1,000. So if you could, you know, you believe in her But if you're in the city, if you can't do anything in St. Petersburg, get out there and vote. Get these people out. Like I said, putting sewage in your water is not good. There's all kind of pathogens and diseases that's in, sewage, and you're bathing with that water and all kind of, and do the people really know that happened before we wrap up?
A lot of people know something about it, but they don't know to what extent. They have no idea the level of corruption that has gone in with this whole thing. And they'll say climate change and all of those things. They'll blame it on that. And while all of those things are very real and maybe make the sewage thing worse, it's certain that they're blaming Mother Nature for something that the government did and trying to get out of it. So.
Okay, well, ladies and gentlemen, now you know the cat's out the bag. They put sewage in your water, and they trying to, that new talking point of climate change. That's just a way to further neglect and benign black people. But that's a whole different conversation in itself. So, Akile, thank you for coming on the show today and letting me know what happened in St. Petersburg with the sewage. That really pissed me off. I mean, I didn't know they did that, and then they targeting black people. And this sellout black woman, that's a Democrat. I want to make sure I put that out there. Because, they say they are friends, these Democrats, and then at the end of the day, they screwing us in these cities all the freaking time. Police brutality happened. Democrats are right on board with it. They don't say a thing about it. But, I hope everything goes well for you. Like I said, definitely want to keep in touch. But, like I said, for me, I'm just telling you in front of everybody, I see a big future for you. So please be ready for it.
Thank you, Phil. Thank you so much, everybody, for your support, and I just really appreciate being able to be here and fight on behalf of my people. So, thank you.